I've spent a lot of time talking about Death Battle for the past few years, especially in regards to what fights I'd really like to see on the show. Figured some people might want to hear my thoughts at this point in time anyway. Now before we get started, I need to set something straight. Like I said before, I have talked about a ton of matchups and I really like a lot of matchups. And in order for a fight to make this list, it needs to fit a lot of criteria. It needs to work as a death battle I actually like and would get hyped to see, whether that be for a personal connection or something else entirely. And it needs to be a fight that I would not be very content with any alternatives to. Meaning that if I really like a matchup, but I could still like one of the combatants fighting someone else, then I'd be less likely to call list my most wanted matchups that I actually think have a chance of being on Death Battle. Because yeah, Dark Willow versus White Violin is a fight I'd really want, but it's lessened by the fact that there's not really much hope to hold out. Fights down in the comments. And if you want to know more fights I'd love to see Death Battle do, click the links in the description. They will take you to other videos into being one of my top picks. Devil May Cry is actually a comic character, so I think I can safely say that this is a battle I could get invested in. Plus it's got a lot of personality and could give us another great fast-paced 3D animation. The general consensus for this one is also kind of flip-flopped a couple times before, so I'd be very interested to see what Death Battle buys and how they approach everything. Captain Kirk versus Han Solo. I'm a simple man. I love Star Trek, I love Star Wars, and a fight between them that actually— and yeah, there are a couple other fights involving both series that definitely work, but this is the quintessential playground debate for science fiction. You can't not do it if you're a show dedicated to answering the biggest versus matches. Kirk and Han aren't even my favorite characters from their franchises, but I enjoyed watching going over new aspects of Star Wars, reintroducing so many people to Star Trek, series like Ant-Man vs. Atom, which recently came out, also Vision vs. Red Tornado, which I don't love as much as I used to, but still really like, as well as others I wouldn't mind seeing. I think this fight could look sick with the right direction, choreography, and properly leveraging their gimmicks. Really awesome in their own right. I'd love to see Deathstroke make a return. And yeah, I could see him fighting someone else, but I would still be incredibly disappointed if I knew we were getting a fight other than this one. Ken Kaneki versus Eren Yeager. There are a good number of anime versus anime fights I'd like to see Death Battles take on, but out of all, this isn't the most small scale fight you can find, but I do like looking at more relatively grounded debates, at least compared to a lot of the other major anime rivalries. This should definitely be a more localized spectacle than some of the stuff we've gotten before, and even then I think the thing that should get the most attention is the emotion. Ken and Eren carry a lot of pain. Death Battle, please do not let the reception of Blake versus Mikasa discourage you from doing this. There are a lot of people out there like myself who'd be over the moon to see this fight come to life. Coming in at number 6, Simone the Digger versus Kyle Rayner. I was a little hesitant to even bring this one up since it's been talked about so much by Evace for over-the-top cosmic insanity, and this fight could elevate that definition as we know it on Death Battle. After getting the amazing track from Brandon Yates and seeing it recognized on the champion poll, I can feel this episode slowly but steadily getting closer to us. Bowser versus Eggman. This is probably the matchup I've talked about the most during the past few months, and while it's not my most wanted character for a pretty long time, these guys trigger so many great memories from my childhood, and I'm really happy this matchup became popular again because it does work really well as an army fight, at least the show has today. I generally prefer to see new faces on Death Battle as often as we can, but I strongly believe that this double run back is something we need to get. And with the Mario Brothers movie having been released this year, and possibly a Death Battle Season 10 teaser, it's that feature animated movie characters, and I think many of them should happen, but to me this is the definitive animated movie fight that is too obvious to not happen. Megamind has always been one of my favorite DreamWorks movies ever, and while I haven't loved the Despicable Me road the whole way through, I have enough to take that silly and charming tone to the max. This is one of those matchups where the humor can easily permeate throughout the animation and the analyses, so with the right writing, I see this Bugs Bunny versus Mickey Mouse. Like Deathstroke versus Taskmaster, this is a fight I haven't talked about too much on the channel, so I can't even begin to describe how much these two shaped my childhood memories as a kid. Like, it doesn't get better than the Bugs Bunny and Tweety show. I love history of anything means that a fight between them has to happen. It just does. The only downside I can think of for doing this is the expectation side of things. These two are the reason we have animation as we do today. I don't think too many people will disagree with me when I say the animation here needs to be like perfect. and beyond ridiculous. But I don't think that should stop Death Battle from trying most wanted episode ever. And don't get me wrong, I still want it, because it's simply the matchup I've put the most stock into. I have been waiting for it to happen for one day. There is so much craziness to play with, both in the animation and the analyses, and you guys know I love crazy. The scale of this fight is so favorite of those kinds of fights. It's epic, it's fun, it's a tiny bit silly, and even after all this time, I have no reason to stop wanting it. I don't have any good idea wanted, and it will remain that way until it happens. So please, just let it happen. And finally, coming in at number 1, you guys already know what it is, say it with me. That one fight we so desperately want, even if it's not that popular with everyone, and this to me is that fight. Stitch has been my favorite Disney movie character since I was 5 years old, and Rocket was my favorite Guardian well before. Their backstories are almost identical, the debate is actually of them in. There's a Rocket scene in the new Guardians movie that reminded me so much of Stitch's story, albeit a bit. It has heart, it has the perfect balance of tone, there's so much potential in every aspect, and I don't care if I'm alone or not. If you're going to associate one and only one matchup with me, have it be this one, because this is my fight. My most wanted fight, period. And there you have it, everyone. Those are my 10 most wanted Death Battle episodes as it stands right now. Again, there are so many more fights I really want to see Death Battle do, so click the links in the description if you want to hear me talk about those. I'll have some honorable mentions in the description too. Leave your own most wanted Death Battles in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.